Thank you. We just started with the different layered architecture associated with the OSI model. The first layer, the physical layer which is responsible for the transmission and reception of unstructured raw data. That is very, very important. Unstructured raw data between the device and a physical transmission medium. It provides or converts the digital bits into the electrical counterpart or optical counterpart. The optical counterpart, the information is propagated in the form of light through the optical fibers which are utilized as the communication media, which are typically providing us the configuration that is associated with the propagation information. The components of the physical layers defines the network topology. The physical layer specifications included in the typical standard such as Bluetooth, Ethernet or the USB standard. An example of a less well-known type of physical layer can be a industrial protocols. I have last time told you at the industrial layer also we are actually providing the specified configuration at the physical layer. The physical layer never suggest what type of devices, hardware devices are to be utilized, what type of hardware devices are to be utilized, and what type of interfacing devices are to be utilized in between the source and the destination. In the last lecture we have seen this particular configuration associated with the physical layer. In case of the data link layer, the data link layer actually provides us node to node data transfer, the link between two directly connected nodes, the destination and the source. If it also defines whether the configuration is a simplex type of configuration, whether it's a duplex type of configuration, and last time I have told you it also suggests us the possibility for correcting the errors. It's a digital communication. Errors in the digital communications are always identified at the procedures that are utilized at the data link layer. Typical, last time also I have told you the standard that we are utilizing. It's typically IEEE 802 standard, which divides the data link layer into two different configurations. The media access control MAC configuration, and second configuration is logical link control, LLC type of configuration. The LLC configuration actually provides us link that is associated or responsible for identifying and encapsulating network layer protocols, and control error which also helps us in maintaining a frame synchronization. Last time we have considered the layer 1 and layer 2, physical and data link layer. Now the network layer, which is a very important layer in case of our networks of network or the internet. But the basically OSI standard suggests that the network layer actually provides the functional and procedural means for transferring variable length data sequence, which we call as packets. Variable length data sequences, whatever may be the number of bits identified into specified number of frames, which typically are identified as data packets, and these data packets are moved from one node to another node, which may be connected in the different network configurations, different network topologies. A network is a medium to which many nodes are connected, on which every node has a specified destination or source address where the packet needs to be propagated. And that's why network layer actually provides us the important terminology that is required in the data networking, that is address. The address, which is very important whenever we have taken the case of writing a letter. The letter will be dispatched towards destination only and only if it's put in an envelope, and that envelope we are subscribing the address of the destination. Address of the source is not at all required in the postal communication, but address of the source is required at the data communication, so that from source to destination exact delivery of the packets or exact routing from one address to the another address in case of the inter-network, the various nodes that are available in the network configuration, where we can provide a possible routing to the packet based on the bandwidth criteria, based on the connectivity criteria, based on the very low auditing features supported by the communication media, that accounts to low cost of communication, that accounts to, remember, this low cost of communication. This functionality is provided mainly by the network layer. The packets are fragmented at the source end, the packets are collected at the destination end. Everything comes under the functioning associated with the network layer. And the network management, the network management, what are the possible routes, what are the data link layers in between the nodes, that everything is the functioning supported at the network layer. And that's why network layer forms a very important in all types of networking models that are suggested. We'll study the networking layer in detail, where specifically we will confine our study to TCP/IP protocol, the TCP/IP protocol which actually provides us the practical model of data networking. Then the next layer is the transport layer. Transport layer actually provides the procedural means of transferring variable length data sequence from the source to destination, while maintaining the quality of service functioning. Quality of service functioning is very necessary whenever we are actually providing the possible configurations required for providing the efficient translation of the data in between the various nodes. The transport layer actually controls the reliability. The transport layer actually controls the segmentation and desegmentation, and sometimes the error control. Some protocols are the connection oriented type of protocol, some kind of protocols are connectionless type of protocols. This connection oriented and connectionless configuration is supported at the transport layer. The transport layer can keep track of the segments, and the transport layer helps us in retransmitting the data which is not available at the destination end, or which is lost into the communication media, or which is lost at the source to communication media interface. So retransmission of the data is necessarily an important function that is supported at the transport layer. The connection oriented or the connection nodes that are supported in the specified functioning at the transport layer defines the features that are associated with the transport layer. These features are typically named based on the type of connection. The features are connection oriented network, connectionless network, concatenation and separation, segmentation and reassembly, error recovery, reinitiate connection, multiplexing and demultiplexing, which we have already seen, the specified flow control or explicit flow control is one of the feature that is obtained at the transport layer. Then if we have seen a specified command, say ping, in our one of the practicals, two batches have done the practicals where we have used the specified command ping. The ping command actually provides us the timeout associated with the segment that is available in the network. If the timeout expires for the specified packet, then that packet needs to be retransmitted. And once the system identifies this particular functioning, then it's a reliable transport service supported by the network layer. And that is again a very important layer. Remaining functionalities associated with the upper layers, specifically whenever we are talking about TCP and IP protocol, this TCP and IP protocol actually provides us transmission control protocol and internet protocol. Transmission control protocol falls specifically at the interface of the network layer and the transport layer. Then the next important layer, which is not at all used in the practical TCP/IP model, is the session layer. But session layer actually initially provided the facilities or functioning such as creation of a dialogue in between the source and destination. Once a dialogue is created, any type of data can be exchanged between the source and destination. It actually defines whether it's a broadcast type of communication or a unicast type of communication or a multicast type of communication. Or rather, we can say in a simple words, it actually defines it's a full duplex type of communication, half duplex, or a simplex type of communication. It establishes procedures for checkpoint, restarting, suspending, and terminating a session. Whenever we are utilizing the procedures that are supported in the session layer, once a session is created in between sender and receiver, it actually checks whether the connection is being established. It checks whether the connection can be terminated by any party. It checks whether the suspending of the connection is required if the bandwidth is not at all available, or any other functioning or any other task due to which the transmission needs to be suspended. And it also helps, these procedural functions at the session layer helps in restarting the dialogue in between source and destination. The typical examples associated with the Yahoo Messenger, Google Messengers, or any type of messenger, say a typical WhatsApp Messenger. WhatsApp Messenger actually utilizes the creation of a dialogue. The creation of the dialogue helps us in translation of the data. If the duplex type of transmission is not at all initiated by both the ends, it can be a simplex type of transmission. In case of WhatsApp, unless and until other person is receiving that data or reading that data, he is not at all communicating. So it will be a simplex type of communication in WhatsApp transmission. When a user sends the data and if he sees two blue ticks, that means the data has reached the destination and destination has read that data. It's up to destination to start a duplex type of functioning or just ignore whatever message that is being received. But the data transmission is completed and both the parties have the procedural checkpoint for suspending and restarting the communication. That is the important functioning supported at the session layer. This session layer is actually not at all a part of TCP/IP protocol suite. The customized web-based application, we can initiate the remote procedural calls. I think this information is not at all required for you, but the programmers need to utilize these remote procedural calls in a client server web-based application development, which actually initiates the data translation once a dialogue is created. That's the important function of the session layer, dialogue creation between the computers. Then the next layer is the presentation layer. The presentation layer establishes the interfacing of the application layer entities. Interfacing, that means once the data is created at the application layer with the help of suitable application, how that data needs to be presented towards destination. That mapping is done at the presentation layer. The presentation protocol data units are actually encapsulated into the session protocol data units, and then they are passed to the lower protocol stack. Lower protocol stack, that means the transport layer protocol stack, network layer protocol stack, data link layer protocol stack, and the actual interfacing. The presentation layer actually is entirely an independent type of layer and that's why it's not at all, or it's embedded in the application layer for the TCP/IP protocol suite. It's not at all a separate layer in case of TCP/IP protocol suite, but at this particular presentation layer, the presentation layer transforms the data into the form that the application accepts. That means compression of the data, decompression of the data, zipping of the data with the help of specified applications, whether that zipping or compression is related to the data, whether that compression is related to the audio, or whether that compression is related to the video. In those all sense, we can say then the type of security. Normally, the security is added at every layer nowadays in the TCP/IP protocol suite, but initially it was the function that was suggested at the presentation layer. Encryption of the data and decryption of the data at the presentation layer. This presentation layer syntax provides the information to the receiver whether that particular file, or the data is a encrypted data. If it's the encrypted data, the receiver must have suitable decryption algorithm, that is transmission of a secret text. That secret key must be known to the receiver, and then only that the data will be transmitted, but will not at all be visualized at the receiving end if the suitable decryption algorithms are not at all available at the presentation layer used by the destination end. That's why the important functioning of the presentation layer is to provide the data a specified presentable format. A presentable format, you can also call it as a syntax format of the data. The presentation layer negotiates with the application layer as well as the session layer, and then it has a specified transfer syntax. But in case of the TCP/IP protocol, it's all the facilities associated with the presentation layer are included in the application layer. The application layer is one of the important layer at the OSI model. The OSI model actually provides us the end user compatible layer, that is the application layer, which means the application layer and user can interact directly with the help of suitable software application. Remember this layer actually interacts with the software applications that are implemented a communicating component which helps in creating that particular data. These are known as the application programs supported at the application layer. The application layer functions typically, it includes the identification of the communication partners, determining the resource availability at the source end and at the destination end, and properly providing the synchronization, which is one of the peer-to-peer function, to provide the synchronization in between the two terminals, and that's a very important function supported at the application layer. When identifying the communication partners, the application layer actually determines the identity and the availability of the communication interface or communication partner with a suitable application. The various types of practical application protocols, application layer protocols, are the HTTP protocol, FTP protocol, then POP protocol, SMTP protocol. These are all the web-based applications. All these web-based applications are actually providing us the specified application layer software strategy. The application layer has no means to determine the availability of the resources in the network. Application layer only follows whatever is being received at the destination end and provides us the information at the source end in which type the specified data is created. Say a Word file. The Word file can be created in the Microsoft Word or the various other platforms other than the proprietary type of Microsoft platforms, the real text editors, RTX type of editors can also create the text file or the word file or the document file. These RTX file, text files can be read by even the Word application. And that's why it's not that the Word should be available at both the ends. But a readable application for the data must be available at the receiving end. Then only that data will be received. That means a doc file is created at a source end. It is sent as a doc file. But at the receiving end, if Microsoft Word is not at all available, there must be some other application which is able to read the Word data format. The Word data format, and that is very, very important. And that's the typical functioning supported at the application layer. These are the 7 layers that are suggested in the OSI model. Every layer has its own independent function. Every layer also provides us the cross-layer type of functioning. The typical applications that are suggested in the standards always provide the cross-layer functioning at the OSI model. One of the important cross-layer functioning is the security. That security actually provides us 3 different important security goals: confidentiality, integrity, and availability of the data, of the transmitted data, of the received data, the confidentiality supported at the communication media, the availability of the communication service for providing the security interaction between the two network nodes or the entire network design, which also helps. This cross-layer functionality also helps in proper network management, right from the application protocol to the network protocol. Some suitable type of network management software helps us in properly streamlining the data. The typical types of application, cross-layer applications also sometimes provides us the information that is being exchanged in between the two different networks. One particular network is an optical network, second particular network is a star type of topology. The interaction between these two layers is helpful if the application created is known to both the network topologies. And that's why that gave rise to the various programming interfaces. Nowadays, all the protocols that are designed are the software protocols. Hardwares are the standard hardwares that are utilized in the communication area. The protocols that are the software protocols, and that gave rise to the application program interface development, API development. These are these are must whenever you are designing and defining various web-based application or application layer-based application, where programming interface, note again that it's a OSI reference model, it's a standard model. Any OSI protocol specification does not provide what type of programming needs to be done. It's only the abstract service perception or abstract service description at both the ends. Protocol specifications actually defines the methodology for development of the programming interfaces, so that the communication between peers is an effective one and a proper implementation of the networking model can be provided. The network driver interface, which is again a programming interface, which actually provides us the utilization of a add-on card for a desktop system, which provides us network facilities or network interfacing. Or nowadays, the network interfacing is available or supported on the motherboard of the desktops or the laptops. That actually is the development or the programming interfaces that are required or supported by for the 7 layers. There are 7 layers, the typical type of signaling system, the typical type of OSI protocols, various types of OSI practical protocols based on the OSI model we are going to study, right from the data link layer, network layer, and its comparison with the TCP IP model. Whenever we'll see the typical definition associated with We'll share again. We'll go back to our presentation. We were at this particular layer. See, a very simplified exchange suitable with the OSI model. The OSI model here at the top layer. Here, this is our one terminal, this is our second terminal. At the top layer, we have D7. D7 is the data that is created with the help of the various strategies at the application layer. This is our topmost layer. With the support of this application layer, one specific header is added along with the data. The D7 constitutes data, H constitutes header. Header is providing us the information how that particular D7 is created, what type of application is utilized, what is required at the destination end, what type of interface it's providing to the presentation layer. Everything is supported in H7. So H7 plus D7 and the facilities that are supported at the presentation layer actually forms H6 and D6. D6 includes H7 and D7 with the header at the presentation layer. Make this concept very clear. At the application layer, header H7 actually provides us the information associated with the how that particular data is created. H6 includes the facilities that are supported at the presentation layer. D6 is nothing but H7 and D7. So H6 plus H7 plus D7 actually formulates the data at the presentation layer. And in such way, every layer it's adding its own headers H5, H4, H3, H2 up to data link layer. At data link layer, along with the header, a specified trailer is also associated. D2 consists of all these particular upper data plus headers that are added, headers and trailers that are added at the data link layer, and it's actually forming the digital data at the physical layer, which is interfaced with the transmission medium. The digital data obtained at the physical layer properly interfaced in the transmission medium. See here, this particular is an electrical signal. At present, the transmission medium we are considering at the electrical signal. The electrical signal, the bits are transmitted as the difference of the electrical voltages or the specified standard that is being utilized for sending the electrical information from one end to another end. At the receiving end, from that data, headers and trailers H2 and T2 are stripped off. Headers and trailers are stripped off, and the data is processed at the data link layer at the receiving end. In the same way, all these headers that are added at every layer are stripped off, and original data D7 is available. D7 is the original data that can be processed by a specified application at the destination. So at the source end, specified headers are added with a layered architecture. At the receiving end, the specified headers are stripped off in a reverse layered architecture. And that's how a data is exchanged using the OSI model. See in the previous figure, now we'll see what is actually happening to the data at the various layers. At the physical layer, 110 is the specified header that is added to the data in the yellow box. The data in the yellow box is the data that is being available from the data link layer, which consists of the header and trailer at the data link layer. This actually data consists of headers of all the upper layers at the transmission layer. But actually to the physical layer, the data is obtained from the data link layer and it's interfaced with. So the necessary functioning will be interfacing with the data link layer and interfacing with the transmission medium. And adding of the header, say a starting flag, say a starting flag at the physical layer. For example, I am considering that it's a starting flag. So whenever the data is properly communicated, the receiver will see, say, first 3 bits, and if it identifies that 110 is the starting flag, then it will identify that after 110 whatever the digital bit stream is available, that's a useful data. So it will remove 110 at the receiving end and hand over this data to the data link layer at the receiving end, and this is the functionality supported at the physical layer. Just for example, I am considering that it's a starting flag 110. What is that? How the frame is formed? We are going to study in detail. But 110 is the indication to the receiver that after 110, whatever data that is being available is to be properly processed and to be handed over to the data link layer. So the header at the physical layer 110 is stripped off and only the data in the yellow box, that is 10101, then 00, the pulse train of 00000, 10111. This data is handed over to the data link layer. That is the functioning associated with the physical layer. Again, the physical layer is responsible for movements of the individual bits from one node to the next node. The data link layer, whatever we have seen in that header diagram, here we are actually forming what will be the nature of the data. So at the data link layer, the header at the data link layer and the trailer at the data link layer, H2 and T2, that is header added at the second layer and trailer added at the second layer. Header H2, data and T2 actually forms the frame of the data. It's the structured data now. At the physical layer, it's a unstructured data. It's 10101010. But at the data link layer, we are actually structuring the data. The structured data, this particular structured data, header, for example, header may be a 16-bit data. 16-bit data includes all ones. A trailer may be a 4-bit data, will be all zeros. So a 16-bit data of all ones and a 4-bit data of all zeros. In between that, the actual data from the upper layers is encapsulated, and that actually forms the frame at the data link layer. So whenever the data is received at the receiving end, the data in between H2 and T2, that is 16 consecutive ones and 4 consecutive zeros at T2, is only handed over to the network layer. That is, the header at data link layer is stripped off and only the data is handed over to the network layer. Properly understand the functioning at various layers. We are actually adding the headers at the source end and stripping off those headers so that only the required data is only handed over to the upper layer. Important points. Again, I am highlighting the network layer is responsible for the delivery of packets, individual packets from the source host to the destination host, from the one node to the other node. This is actually the source to destination delivery. and the intermediate nodes are typically known as the intermediate systems. The intermediate systems, we have end system A, we have end system D, we have end system F, we have in between system, intermediate system B, C, E. All are connected. The source and destination are known. So end A is source and either end D or end F is the destination. So whenever the data is required to be sent to end system F, the data flow will be from A to B, then B to E, and then E to F. This will be the specified data flow. So the first hop will be from A to B. First hop will be from A to B, then second hop will be from B to E, and third hop will be from E to F. And this is known as hop to hop delivery. That is, your packet is jumping from A to B, B to E, E to F. And necessary processing is done for the intermediate layers for the specified formats. The data from A to B, B to E, E to F. If it's source to destination delivery from A to D, then it will be A to B hop, B to C hop, C to D hop, and the data will be available at D, destination D. Make it very clear. Source to destination delivery. Here we know the address. We know the address. We know the address of source. We know the address of F. We know the address of D. And since the address is known, the specified data for the specified address is hopped from one node to another node, which are the in-between nodes from for the source end A to end D. And second is the specified formation that is associated. Just a minute. We'll take a break of 2 minutes. Okay, we are coming to the transport layer. The transport layer actually, from the session layer, the data is handed over to the network layer. Session layer to network layer. This particular format, the data at the network layer, the data at the data link layer is known as frames. The data at the network layer is known as the packets. The data at the transport layer is known as segments. So the segments are handed over from the network layer to the session layer at the destination end, and from session layer to the network layer at the source end with the support of transport layer. The format at the transport layer is known as segment of the data. Initially, it's the bits, zeros and ones. At the data link layer, it's the frame. At the network layer, it's the packet. At the session layer, it's the at the transport layer, it's the segment. Remember these terminologies. These are the terminologies that are required for us. The transport layer is responsible for the delivery of a message from one process to another process. This is a formation of a reliable process to process delivery of a message. The processes are creating the messages. The transport layer process to process delivery ensures that the specified message is delivered from source end to the destination end. From the source end to the destination end. Important details associated with the transport layer we will be studying in more detail whenever we'll study the transmission control protocol. It transmits the data, it controls the transmission and ensures process to process delivery. Similarly, again, these diagrams are just for showing you the addition of the headers, and along with that header we need to synchronize the two sessions. The two sessions are synchronized, that is the dialog is created in between the source and destination. Once a dialog is created, there is a synchronization between source and destination, and whenever there is a synchronization, actual sessioned data is transferred from one source to another source. Sometimes in the practical, if you are getting the session gets terminated, that means once a dialog is created, a session is created and a specified time duration is allocated to that session, and if you are not at all performing any data related task in the specified allotted time, your session gets automatically terminated. Whenever the session gets terminated, your dialog control ends. Whenever dialog control ends, you have to re-establish the dialog, then only the data can be communicated. And that's why these facilities associated with the session layer are included in the transmission control protocol for maintaining the synchronization in the source and destination layer. Dialog control and synchronization. These green are nothing but the important facilities that are supported by the session layer, or important functions or the important primitives at the various layers. Session layer is responsible for dialog control and synchronization. Again, at the presentation layer, from the application layer, a header is added for the data which provides us the information related to either the security or related to the presentation of the data, whether encrypted data is transmitted or whether a plain text data is transmitted. If it is the plain text data, then no decryption is required at the destination end. If some sort of compression is done at the source end at the presentation layer, then suitable decompression techniques must be applied whenever the data reaches at the presentation layer of the network model utilized at the destination end. Translation, compression, encryption, these are the facilities. Translation, typical example, the translation of EBC DIC data to ASCII data, or ASCII to EBC DIC, or if the data is in a form of gray code, then it's translated from gray code to 8421 code. That sort of translation of the data is also supported at the presentation layer. Then it's the application layer. These are all the applications: X.500, FTAM, X.400, and a user, either a human or a program. Nowadays, automated programs, automated applications are supported at the application layer itself, which creates the data on its own, adds this information, and then translates that data from application layer to the presentation layer. The type of data, previously it was known as message. Message means important information. The important information is created at the message layer. The important thing, here no name is given to the data format at the presentation layer. Similarly, no name is given to the data format at the session layer. At the transport layer, it's the segment of data, and then at the application layer, it's the message. Let's go through this summary. Application layer to allow access to the network resources. presentation to translate, encrypt, and compress, session to establish, manage, and terminate sessions, transport layer to provide reliable process-to-process message delivery and error recovery, network layer to move packets from source to destination to provide inter-networking, very, very important task. The data link to organize bits into frames to provide hop-to-hop delivery. And at the physical layer, it's transmission of bits over a medium to provide mechanical as well as electrical specifications. Normally, the electrical specifications, whenever we are communicating the information as an electromagnetic signal, electrical signal as well as the optical signal, both are the electromagnetic nature of the data, which can be propagated through the specified medium, either a copper wire or a link wire or optical fiber link. This actually finishes the basic introduction associated with the various OSI layers. The OSI layers. I think at present today we'll stop here. I will take the questions. You can unmute yourself, panelist. Take one day.
Yes, sir.
Doubt? Any question?
No, sir.
Poonam Dhumal.
No, sir.
Priyanka Atpadekar. Amol Umardand.
Yes, sir.
Any doubt? Whatever we have seen today?
No doubt, sir.
No doubt. Sifa Momin.
No doubt, sir.
Swati Chavan, not attentive. Urmila.
Hello?
Any doubt? Any?
No, sir.
What we have studied today?
Uh, layers of application layer, network layer, session layers of OSI model.
What is the importance of the session layer?
The importance of session layer is to form the packets.
No. Importance of session layer. Session layer, we are actually forming the dialogue. Once the dialogue is created, the session is said to be established and any sort of data can be propagated once a session is established. Dialogue control and synchronization are the important functions supported by the session layer. Gauri Kadam, Gauri Divte.
Yes, sir.
What is the importance associated with the presentation layer? Yes, not attentive. Divesh,
Yes, sir.
what is the importance associated with the presentation layer, functioning associated with presentation layer?
Presentation layer.
Hmm.
It, sir, it actually provides the communication protocols and interface methods between host and other from source to destination.
It actually provides the syntax associated with the data. Whether the data is the compressed data, whether the data is the encrypted data, the presentation form of the data is supported at the presentation layer.
Okay.
Aniruddha,
Yes, sir.
any doubt? Anything you
No,
want to
sir.
ask? Anything you
Uh,
want?
Not from these lectures. I want to ask from the previous lectures.
Okay.
So, what's the difference between circuit switching and packet switching?
In case of circuit switching, a typical example is the establishment of a phone call. The two subscribers are connected with each other with the switching facility provided at the exchange. So a circuit path is established directly in between source and destination. Once a circuit path is established, the two subscribers can communicate, or the data from one subscriber to another subscriber is communicated with the existing path that is being created by circuit switching. That is not at all the case with the packet switching. The packet, once dumped into the communication media, will reach towards the destination according to the available communication paths or communication routes in between source and destination. That is the entirely different. It's the virtual path that is being supported in the packet switching. It's not at all a direct circuit path that is being established in between source and destination. In case of once the path is being established, entire bandwidth is available only to the two subscriber. But in case of virtual path creation, entire communication media, public communication media is available to whoever is connected to the communication media. They also can utilize the bandwidth, though in a shared mode, but a proper utilization of the bandwidth. That is the major difference in between circuit switching and packet switching. That's why we are dividing a large amount of data into number of packets. We are dumping those communication media in the communication network rather, and the packet will reach towards the destination through any available path. That path establishment may be depending on the bandwidth supported by the in-between communication media, the type of topologies in between the source and destination end, the accounting facility, optimized accounting, that is actually the rate of transmission or the cost of communication. That is the part of the packet switching and not the circuit switching. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Akanksha, Akanksha Kapre,
Yes, sir.
any doubt?
No, sir.
Okay, tomorrow we'll continue the same discussion. We have seen the various facilities that are supported. We will go much more detail into the various layers and the layer architecture and the type of topology that is being utilized for the data. I will end the session for today. Tomorrow we'll continue.